Hello, hello, and welcome. This year I'm trying something new, which is monthly art vlogs. I'll dive into some details in a bit, but I hope that you enjoy this little time capsule of January 2023 as much as I do. So I personally love goal setting and planning, and I do it all the time, not just at the beginning of the year. Though normally I don't hype up New Year's, but I graduated at the end of last year, so right now really feels like the start of something new and exciting and hopefully positive. I have had this channel for a very long time, and I've always wanted to do something bigger with it, but I've never really had the courage or the ability to commit and really put myself out there. So I'm gonna try. That said, the last time that I really put in a lot of effort was about 2 years ago, and I ended up my goal was to put out a video every single week, and I accomplished that, but the videos were not of to a caliber that made me content, if that makes sense. Or another thing that I ended up doing was I would feel really inspired and I would not let myself draw because I wanted to catch it on camera, on video. And, that is in itself very detrimental to my creative process, I've found. So I want to be reasonable with myself, which is why I'm thinking that I'll do monthly art vlogs. So setting some goals or projects for the month and taking you along with me as the plan inevitably changes. It's gonna happen, and, I need to be okay with that. Another reason why I want to do it in this format is purely for the sake of nostalgia and documentation. I really genuinely love looking at my old art. It's terrible, it's hideous, it's all the same face and expression and character design, but at least I made art, right? And unlike my university years, I was able to, at age 14, I was able to, put together those compilations of this was what I did in January, February. This is all the art that I made in each month of the year. And there was a very, a visceral feeling of improvement that I miss being able to look back on, if that makes sense. 14-year-old me was a disaster. Not that 24-year-old me is not a disaster, but, 14-year-old me was more of a disaster. But I digress. It was a really long tangent, but that's sort of my reasoning behind why I want to do kind of a monthly project in terms of videos, as opposed to trying to do it every single week just for the sake of, not burning myself out and actually not only meeting that goal of putting something out on a regular basis, but making that product something that I am proud of and something that I can look back on in several years and really appreciate. I've been taking a lot of time to sort of reflect on my art goals and to really think about what art means to me and why it continues to compel me so much. And a big conclusion that I've come to is that I love art as a form of storytelling. There's obviously a lot of different ways to approach storytelling within visual arts, whether it's doing comics, whether it's one-off illustrations or triptychs or things like that. But, art as a form of storytelling is my overall goal for this year. Probably the biggest subset of that I want to learn this year is composition. I come from a graphic design background, and I'm also interested in photography, and thankfully composition is a transferable skill between the three, so I'm really motivated to just learn more and explore in a practical way. So not just studying it, but actually putting it into action. Another aspect of composition and storytelling is environments. So for me, at least, drawing details and objects and exploring how I can represent the personality of an environment or a character via those objects. And then, obviously, drawing environments and composition leads to thinking about characters and doing more full bodies and poses that are interesting and dynamic and help tell that story for that particular illustration. And then, because of those larger goals of storytelling and composition, in terms of techniques, mediums, I really just want to focus on sketching. I want to learn how to prioritize the planning stages as well as the detailing stages. So overall, what that means for me is making progress in this larger sketchbook that I've got and working consciously to have a more delicate hand when it comes to sketching, as well as taking the time to properly sketch things out and put in the details, because I've noticed that I tend to get really lazy when it comes to sketching. Additionally, I want to work a bit more with my inks and my dip pens, because I really do enjoy the process of putting down something permanent and then having to continue from there and detail clothing, jewelry, whatever it is from that point onwards. I'd also like to get better at gouache and alcohol markers. I recently bought a couple of Copic markers and I have no idea what I'm doing with them, and I would like to because I spent money on them. Although I do want to take a step back from using watercolors all the time, I would like to finish the Opus watercolors that I've been meaning to finish because, I bought them with the intention of actually finishing a tube and I've yet to do that. And for me, for whatever reason, I don't reach for my better quality watercolors because I've not finished the Opus ones yet. And I've decided that I'm so determined to finish these paints sometime this year that I'm not going to let myself buy any new watercolors until I have finished at least a couple of the tubes. And then as a side note, I would like to get better at digital art and maybe try my hand at some pixel art again. It's been a really long time and I feel like this is kind of a fun and interesting challenge and it's so different from the way that I approach my art usually that I think it'd be kind of fun to try out. Then moving on to some specific projects that I want to work on this year. I've got a comic that I started last November and I do want to finish it. I wrote out a really short kind of script for it. So I think it's a reasonable goal, especially because I finished all the rough sketches and such on it. I just need to do the backgrounds and then refine the characters and then it'll be done. But, that's still, even though I summarize it so simply like that, it's still several hours of work ahead of me that I need to actually plan for and accommodate for in my schedule. So that's part of where the dedication and planning stages come in, really. And then lastly, I want to post online more, specifically just on Tumblr. I've tried cross-posting before, and it's honestly just a hassle. And, it was such a hassle that I stopped posting art online altogether, so I'm gonna keep it simple this time around. And yeah, that was pretty rambly, a little bit. I went on some tangents and stuff, but those are kind of just my overall goals for art this year. And I'm excited to see what comes into fruition and what doesn't. And I'm excited to, try. Plain and simple. I'm excited to try.
First of all, apologies for any sniffling. I'm allergic to cats, but my sister's cat is very cute. Second of all, my computer fans are going bonkers, so apologies for that too. So for this month, well, not even for this month, I keep a folder on my computer for reference images. I also keep a separate folder for current inspiration. It's just called Draw Soon. And when I come across photos on the internet, I just download them into that folder right away. And then as I continue throughout the weeks or make art or whatever, I might, move things out of this folder, or I might, readjust things or actively work towards getting rid of some of them. But I just find this really helpful because in looking at these and in analyzing them, I'm able to find similarities that lead me towards certain art goals. And this is the second recording I'm doing of this. The first one, I literally talked for half an hour, which is way too long. So I went and I was a little bit extra, so I arranged everything into a little bit more of an organized thing. At least for me, this is more organized. So my main goal at the moment is to leading towards composition and storytelling. So we're going to start on the opposite side. Up top here, I can't see that. Anyways, up top here, I've got pictures that are inspiring me in terms of poses and lighting, some of these, like for example, this one and this one are portraits where I just want to be able to memorize that pose and that certain lighting setup because I think it'll be a useful tool for me. Then leading into here, this middle area is a bit more about colors. I'm really into these like moody blues and purples and greens. Those are kind of the colors I'm working with a lot these days. I want to work more with reds because I need to get rid of a lot of my red paints. But, this is kind of where my eye naturally leads me these days in terms of colors. Moving up we're going to go over to the composition area now. So composition obviously has a lot of different elements. Coming from like a graphic design standpoint, for me, I am interested these days in framing and contrast, specifically like the idea, it's a film theory of like frame in a frame. And then as well as movement. So movement could be directing the eye throughout the composition or just movement of characters, things like that. So this centerpiece here, not center, this piece here, I really like the movement of her jewelry and her hair and I think they've like threaded fabric into her hair, that kind of thing. As well, leading into the middle here, you see things that are a bit more relating to that frame in a frame concept. So dividing a piece into different segments. Leading into the middle, this is kind of the main inspiration area for me. I've labeled it storytelling because that for me, that's my end goal, right? So frame in a frame, this picture here is of like an apartment complex, probably in Italy because it looks like Italy, where you see these, it's hard to tell in this particular case, but there are these clotheslines, and you've got this big overarching frame that cuts off the top part of the picture, and to me, this is really reminiscent of the concept of Sonder, where it's that sort of existential feeling of that existential reminder that everybody in the world lives this deeply complex life that you will never get to know, right? And a lot of people use windows to express that feeling in their paintings, as well as leading this setup here, where you see tables and jars, and you kind of get a sense for the personality of whoever is living in that space. This picture in particular, this is very like, I don't know if niche is the right word, but this is very specific to me, but I have had nightmares about a place very similar to this. And for me, even though to you probably it's just like a regular beach scene, right? But to me, there's a very clear story, and there's potential for a story to form in the way that this environment is curated if you were to translate this picture into a composition, if that makes sense. Down at the bottom, I've just got a couple pictures where I want to like remind myself to draw some flowers, or it's mostly flowers here actually. I really want to do an ornate necklace. I think that'd be really, really good practice for me because I found that I tend to get lazy when it comes to necklaces, jewelry, clothing, that kind of thing. And basically, I will sketch out the basic structure of it, and then I'll tell myself, like in the painting phase, oh, I'll add the details then, and I never do. So this is just a in my face reminder to put in the effort to put in those details. At the bottom here, these two are just paintings, but I really like the like impressionist style of them, the textures, the line work. This picture as well, it's hard to see here, but it's got these like strands of light that are very high contrast, and that's really interesting to me. Colors and such, I think I discussed that already, but it's interesting to me looking at this, like there's so much orange here, but I don't use orange a lot, at least not bright oranges. So that's really interesting to me. But yeah, this is kind of just a summary of my current inspirations in art and the direction that I'm trying to get myself to go in. So I hope this was kind of interesting. I don't know if I'll organize it like this again because it took way too long and it's not worth the output, but it is what it is. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Hello, hello. It is January 25th. Beginning of the month. So I'm going to give it a little update on what I've been working on. I have been trying to do some more sketching. Unfortunately, my sketchbook is currently underneath the tripod, so I'll maybe film that separately. So I'll start off maybe in this watercolor sketchbook. So, on the 13th, I did these ink drawings. They started off pretty good, and then, I don't know if you can tell, but I made a mess, and I did knock over my ink bottle. So that put an abrupt stop to my ink drawings for that day. Next, I finally read the Trials of Apollo books, and I wanted to do some fan art of Nico. This is not fan art of Nico, but that's what it did start off intending to be. I like it. I really let myself have some fun with it, and I played around with flat brushes, and I think it turned out fun. Next up, I really want to use up those Opus paints, so here's an entire page of red, and then I've got this painting of Vi that I did, Vi from Arcane. I've been meaning to draw fan art of Arcane since I watched it, and I've started it out digitally, and it never ends up working out, so I decided to go traditional for this. I like it. I think it could be more interesting, but I'm just glad that I did it and challenged myself. And this I started yesterday. I've been watching Hell Girl again, and I don't know, I just felt like throwing colors around, really. And that's where I'm at in this sketchbook. Let me close that. What else did I do? I've got this travel journal that I bought for my trip to Victoria last year, but I did just some doodles of plants and such, and the side is, well, it's all gouache, but yeah. I actually, believe it or not, I went through the effort of doing 2 Google searches for plants. I'm very proud of myself. What else? I'll put those away. I've made some progress on this one. I don't know, I might pull in, I have some scans from the underpaintings that I did. I started this back in November, and I really wanted to finish in November, but then family stuff happened. I love life, but I'm back at it. I started in November, and it was intended to be kind of an autumnal one. I was really inspired then by Yellow Jackets and Over the Garden Wall, this idea of venturing into a forest, being lost in a forest, and kind of succumbing to the elements. And also I'm intending to put a bunch of hidden eye shapes among the roots and tree branches. That's the end goal. So I'm looking forward to finishing this eventually. Right, and then whoops. I'm giggling to myself, sorry. Did this the other day. Got some footage of drawing the hair, but I also bought a couple new Copic markers. I don't know why I said Copic. I've never said Copic. Yeah, I bought a couple. I've been playing around with them. I don't love them as much as I wish I did. I think if I were to buy more alcohol markers, I would need to get the proper paper for it, and I would want more, so I'd probably invest in a cheaper set that I can really use up. Yeah, but I like the sketch. I'm glad that I took the time to actually sketch it out. What does this see? Well, let's start with this. Nico, Sebastian, OC. Yeah, I was doodling in my head. I did the rough sketch, and I'm these 2 characters look the same in my head, but they shouldn't, because Sebastian is in his 20s and Nico is probably still 14. So I was kind of trying to map out how I would draw them differently. I still want to do a proper pet of Nico. Then because I want to use up the red, there's a lot of different inspirations for this. Because I want to use up a lot of my red paint. And I also wanted to challenge myself and do a sketch of like teeth. So a lot of like demon type characters have that pose where they're like pulling at their lip to expose fangs. So I did this doodle. I don't know how well it shows up, but this is a really old character of mine. I got him off DeviantArt. He was an adoptable off DeviantArt from like 10 years ago. Yeah. I liked how the sketch shows up. It was probably the most in character for him, but it doesn't have that pose of like pulling at his teeth. So I did some like little sketches of that pose, and then I got distracted and did something else. But down here, I took some reference pictures of myself because Googling finger and mouth poses didn't yield the results I wanted. I don't know how well it'll show up. I like this one. And because I've got that photo, I'll probably do something else with it. But using what I learned there, I did this sketch. Not very in character for this person, but it's cool nonetheless. And then I took that and I decided that eventually I will probably use it to break in my larger sketch watercolors pad. So I did this sketch, which I really, really like, even if it's incredibly out of character for him. One thing I'm looking at now is like the hand is way too small. I do this a lot. I think because I have small hands. I have little baby hands with little baby fingers. His hand is just too small, so I think I'll have to adjust that as I go. But I'll transfer it over to the sketchbook, and I don't know if I'll do it in the next couple of days because I do want to prioritize sketching over painting. But like I indulged myself in doing that by painting, and now I just can't stop. Yeah, the only other thing I think to note is the sketches that I was doing in my sketchbook, but it's underneath the tripod, so I'll probably put those in later. Yeah, it feels like I didn't necessarily accomplish like a lot this month. I didn't accomplish a ton this month, but baby steps. I'm trying my best. I'll probably update you guys later in the month, but that's where I'm at right now. Today's the 31st, so I'm going to update a little bit about what I've been doing. I actually reactivated an old injury a couple days ago, so I really haven't done that much, but I did get started on transferring this sketch over for painting. But I really want to take my time with it. So, because I also do want to focus a bit more on drawing the details in the shirt before I actually move on to coloring stages, but I'm looking forward to doing this. I've worked a bit on this. I just went through with a pencil crayon and I added some details that had been kind of lost in the initial painting stages. I need to go back and add more up there. I've also been just doing some like color swatching. There as well. So I want to rearrange my like custom palette, and I guess that's the end of the sentence. I want to rearrange my custom palette, so I've been deciding which things I want to get rid of, as well as colors that I want to put in. So this is more color testing, colors I want to put in, or maybe even colors that I want to buy. So I was looking at my Daniel Smith swatch sheet. I don't remember what it's called. What is it called? Oh my god, the word is evading my mind right now. I started this a few days ago, and I got lazy with the flowers, so I went and I tried to do a study, and it scared me even more, so I gave up. But maybe someday I won't give up. I think sort of the reality is that I need to do studies like this in pencil rather than in watercolor, because watercolor, there's naturally a more time-consuming part to it. Here is just some more color testing. I remembered recently how much I love my Van Gogh turquoise green. I very distinctly remember liking mixing it with Quin Rose. Yeah, I went back at my student grade palette and I did a little mix of that. You can see I overworked the paper there, but then I went into my Daniel Smiths and I tried to replicate that with Phthalo Green and Quin Red. And then I went and I swatched this one's the Daniel Smith Quin Red again, with the Van Gogh Turquoise Green, then the Opus Rose Madder with Phthalo Greens from Daniel Smith, Turquoise Green is Van Gogh, and then last one here is Daniel Smith Quin Red, and then Phthalo Green again. I think because I felt like I didn't do that properly and I wanted to get a more gradiated transition between the colors. And then here I was just kind of having some fun and realizing how much I love mixing grays. So I went and I did this study. Let me try and focus it. I think that's as close as I'll get. I did this study using none of the colors that I tested there. Used the Daniel Smith Phthalo Green and then my Opus Alizarin Crimson. The Opus Alizarin Crimson is made with PB19, so I didn't realize until I went back, I think this morning, and I looked at it again, and I'm like, wait, I didn't use a Quin Red at all or a Rose Madder at all. I straight up used an Alizarin Crimson. But like, I really, really love the grays that it gives. These like cool grays that separate out a bit. I have this like custom mix of Van Gogh paints that I made several years ago that I used a lot for when I was doing like value studies, and this really reminds me of that mix that I have. It's a mix of like, I think in total it's like 6 different pigments because it used, what is it called? I think it's like their cerulean blue hue or whatever, but it's PB15 plus PW6. And then I also used their Naples Yellow Red, which I don't remember the colors for, as well as the Payne's Gray, which is also a mix of 2 colors, but it's, 3 of those tubes, which each had 2 pigments each, so 6 total. I know math. Anyways, this color mix reminds me a lot of that, and I really love it. I want to work with it more. I love mixing grays. Last but not least is the Big Boy sketchbook. I don't know how much of it I'll be able to get on film, nor do I know how blurry anything will be. This was the first thing that I doodled in January. I don't think I had a character in mind, but to me now it looks like Fen. The next one here is, I was playing a lot of The Sims around this time, so this is one of my Sims living the cottagecore lesbian life that I aspire to have. Doodles, bookmark, sketches, also inspired by The Sims. And then drawing mermaids always makes me think of Hiyori and Ikuya from Free Now, so I drew them as well. Just a doodle. I literally have no idea what this is or what it signifies. Same with that. It's whatever it is. Here are some like plants and viney things. I really, really love this sketch here, and I think it'd be really interesting to do some type of iteration on this, probably in gouache or acrylic gouache. This is whatever that is. This one is a character that I have. His name is, we'll just call him Z. He has a bunch of different names. And then this one, it's really messy, but this is like I had a painting that I started a while ago, and this is kind of, I don't want to redo it per se, but I was thinking a lot about the composition that I had wanted to do in that painting, so I think I might revisit that overall composition sometime. But, these two take place in the same location. It's a very specific, like, architectural style. Doodles. Met up with some family recently, and we had a really nice time, and I want to do some type of painting commemorating that, so I don't know how visible it'll be. And a doodle. And then I was playing around with my Tombow pens. I've only got 3. I don't use them a lot. I bought them for school, and I no longer use them that much. I want to use them more because I think they'll be really useful for value studies and compositions. I've just got 3 gray ones, so yeah. this. I really like this top one. These are just like character doodles. No idea what that is. Here I was just sketching with a bunch of my Prismacolor like pencils, and just kind of seeing which colors I wasn't using much, which ones I liked to sketch with. This one is it's one of the TXT concept photos, but I really liked the lighting of it, and I thought to myself, I realized I have not done a pencil color, like a colored pencil piece, probably since like elementary school, drawing really, really shitty book reports. So I wanted to do it in full, and then I got so impatient that I gave up and I just drew the lines there. This one is like a composition, kind of a redo of an old painting that I did, one of the first like watercolor paintings I did, and I was considering redoing it, but the original one, the characters were sketched and like rendered in pencil, and then the background was just watercolor splotches and stuff. So like in terms of showing my improvement in watercolor techniques, I don't think it'd be a fair comparison because it's literally just throwing watercolors into the background. So it's more of a pencil sketch, but if I were to redo that concept now with my current skill set, then I would want to paint the characters in watercolor as opposed to sketching them out. But which is why I'm kind of on the fence of redoing that. This one, don't know what it is, but I like the eyelashes. Doodle there. This one, it's not super visible, but this is from that same like TXT concept photos. I just really love this pose and this lighting, and I want to have this pose and lighting setup in my repertoire forever. This is just a doodle. Specifically, I like the reference, I like the angle of her body. Yeah. There is something here that's a head. It's very, very faint, but yeah. This next one, I was lying in bed about to sleep, and I was thinking about the Ezra painting that I'm working on, and I thought like, oh, it'd be kind of cool if I made this a series with some of the other characters from his story. It's not his story, he's a side character, it's her story. So I doodled the like compositions for them, and I realized that I had zero inspiration for any of the characters other than this one, so yeah. Just sketching out, trying to plan out Ezra's outfit for that one painting. Yeah, I looked at the original like reference that I have for him, and I doodled out his like original outfit. And then because that pose has him in more of like an edgy pose, I went with an outfit that's a little different, and I look at this now and this reminds me of the guy from Tokyo Mew Mew, queer icon, I guess. And there's this one, so more of like buckles and feathers and BDSM wear, I don't know. Then looking at like just an office shirt, like a button up. And there's this office shirt, like button up, and then other things. I think what I'm probably going to do for it is like a leather jacket, but not like a cool leather jacket, like a cowboy jacket. The ones with like tassels and like tacky studs. That's probably what I'm going to end up doing. Whatever that is. Yep, my knee does still hurt. Did a doodle of Fen, and then I realized I haven't drawn Echo in a long time. Echo is she's one of the very first OCs that I've ever made, and she's kind of faded into nothing, which is hilarious to me, but yeah, that's her. And then I did another one of her. I really want these two characters to have, because they're not like love interests per se, but not even I know what's going on between them, but there is something there, and I really want them to have kind of this like plant and garden motif to them. So yeah, no idea what that is. No idea what this is. Is there anything? Yeah, there's one more. I watched Given a while back, and now I finally read the manga. I woke up in like a cold sweat earlier, and I hobbled my way over to my sketchbook, and I doodled this because the composition came to mind. I did a better version of it this morning, and then another variant on that. I'm gonna go back to this. I just wrote some notes on the opus paints that I want to finish, as well as the paints that I eventually want to replace them with. I don't know that I deserve to buy new paints, is all I'm saying, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at in the sketchbook for January. January definitely got to a slow start, but I think I did a good job at like setting out some concrete goals for myself. But you know, it's only the start of the year, and as always, unexpected things are happening, so you know, what can I do but roll with the punches and see what happens. I will see you in the next one. Bye!